from the campus of NDC, Notre Dame College. If I'm too serene and sedate today, I took the Metro Parks to get here to kind of calm you down. But what do you think of this? We go from the Urban Meyer Collins show to Coach Adam Howard and his show. Coach, always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, excited to be here.
And you know what, man, it's kind of cool pulling into this great campus. I just said, we go, Bunch! And I'm thinking, hey, it's Coach. You know what I mean? So you know when you're getting known in the area that it's a good thing. Coach, beautiful fall day. Fall weather is here. It smells like fall, but it also smells like football. And I understand during the 2 days, and you're not a masochist, but, you know, if it pegs to 95 once in a while, you're good with that just for the training for the guys. But this is your weather, isn't it, man?
Oh, it's absolutely. We're in Northeast Ohio. It's football weather. It's fun to get into the grind of the season, and, you know, it's been beautiful on campus this week. So we've had a great week of practice and excited to bring it back home this week.
And I want people to know the bleachers up already at Muller Field, so we're ready to rock and roll as this weekend. West Virginia Wesleyan, the Bobcats come in, 2 o'clock kickoff. Like to choose, here's why. Because, you know, we all have some chores on Saturday. You know, we have to run to the hardware store to fix and repair something. Coach, I'm one of those guys, I can fix and repair things. What takes the average person 20 minutes takes me about an hour. And I'm one of those guys, so I go to the hardware store, I get stuff. Whenever they see me, they go, we'll see you twice more today, because I usually break something or screw something up, and I've got to go back, and I know it's going to be at 2 o'clock kickoff, NDC campus. Get out here to the beautiful new facility, Muller Field. But let's flash back to last weekend. You go on the road. Mm-hmm. You go to Urbana. You fall 39-19, and people say, wow, they got beat by 20. 2 turnovers in the red zone. That'll cause you sleepless nights. Couple of missed extra points that doesn't figure at the end. But just some things, Coach, that I know are fixable. So it's not like, you know, it's a loss. Got that from Earl Bruce, just like a win is a win is a win. But it's just what meets the eye when you look into it. It's, yeah, we're okay. I mean, you're going to lose some games, and you're going to win more.
Absolutely. I think we're a lot better football team, obviously, than we showed on Saturday. And, you know, when you turn the ball over inside the 5-yard line twice, we're knocking on the door there early in the game, and it just changes the whole game. So, you know, with our running attack and what we do, you know, if you're talking about, you know, you score there, you know, and actually our first drive of the game, we drove all the way down to the 30 and stalled on a 4th and 1. You know, so we left some points out there, you know, and if with the way our offense works, if you're able to get an early lead like we should have in that game, then we're able to play the type of game that we play. We're able to run the ball and do some things that we like to do. You know, just kind of got us out of our rhythm when we were putting the ball on the ground. And 4 turnovers, we muffed a punt. We gave them an easy score. You know, with giving them the ball on the 28-yard line, you just don't win football games that way. You know, it's the biggest statistic in football is, you know, the turnover thing. I think it reflects whether you win or lose most of the time.
Coach Adam Howard, it is the Coach Adam Howard Show, the NDC Coaches Show. Mark Bush Bishop, ESPN Cleveland. Coach, when you have a 4th and 1 and don't convert, and you talk to so many coaches who love picking your brains, you get a little bit of wisdom here and there, usually here, you know what, there was no trickery involved. We went with our strength. That's what you usually hear. And they can stop our strength, and they deserve it. Did you go with your strength on that 4th and 1?
We did. You know, we went with a toss play on 4th and 1 to Pedro Powell. Didn't block it up great. You know, and he got tackled for a loss there. So, you know, it's one of those things. You're right. You know, on a 4th and 1, you want to go with the guys that got you there. And you know, there's nothing wrong with giving the ball to Pedro Powell. And you know, I'll be interested to see, you know, how he responds this week. He didn't have his best game, and but Pedro's a great guy of character. He's going to respond this week.
And I want football fans in Cleveland to know that Pedro Powell has not been traded, okay? He is still a member of the Notre Dame College Falcons. And you look at other things. And I want to tell you this. I like nicknames. A lot of play-by-play guys, of course, Andy Barsh will have them, and our own Dave Scogian from ESPN Cleveland's in the house. But I have a new nickname for a gentleman who returns punts and kickoffs for you. I'm calling him Mike Fields Position, because that's what he gave you last week, of course. Took one to the house on a punt, 140 yards in kickoff returns. Those are 3 yards, Coach. Really, you think about it, yeah, you get to start at the 20 or whatever, but any time that you advance past there, I call those 3 yards, and Mike Fields' Position has done a good job for you in that case.
Yeah, he's had some explosive explosive plays in the return game for us this year, and we expect him to make good decisions. He had a couple of decision errors in the game on Saturday that that put us in a tough position, but he also returned one for a touchdown. So there's some give and take there. We expect him to be clean with all those decisions, but once he starts to do that and lets his athletic ability take over, he's going to have an even better game.
Coach, when you see those mental mistakes, and Fields is a senior, so you're thinking, hoping those be gone by now, is that when one of the assistants needs to grab him, or you grab him and just say, especially on the special teams, because you see it frequently, the guy comes off as more or less, step over here a second, son, and just say, this happened, can't happen again, kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if they didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't have a job. So,
Now you would, dude, and you know what? You'd probably be at a Big Ten school right now.
Yeah.
You'd be, running a perfect season year in, year out.
Yeah. The idea is that you make, less than the other team. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as my friend Coach Rutigliano always says, the team that makes the fewest mistakes wins football games. So, we made more mistakes than Urbana made on Saturday. So it's one of those things. But we've had an awesome week of practice.
Good. So the kids are fired up to come back home, of course. And it is a 2 o'clock kickoff Saturday. I want to ask you this. I always like to pick people's brains, too, on punt returns. I was always taught, I was a firm believer, that with that punt return, unless they're going for the boundary, if you're catching that ball between the hashes, you got to stick it right up in there and then make your break. You make your break too wide, the guy's coming down, they're pinning against the sideline, and most of the times, more than not, by putting it right up the gut there, you're going to get hammered. But if that's the best way to break it, because you get a little bit of blocking, get some guys doing their job, then you bust it to the outside once everyone has committed. Have you looked at it that way too?
No question. Most of the punt teams are designed, you have those gunners, and they get a little more of a free release than the guys that are protecting the punter's leg. So, the best thing that we try to teach is, you get vertical and make one decision. If you're making 2 decisions on any play in football, other than the quarterback that goes through his progressions, then you're probably not in a good position to play fast. So if it's that one decision to go vertical, make one cut and go. So,
Coach, we also talk about, quote unquote, and not using proper language here in a academic setting, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mr. Foy again, double-digit numbers in receptions, and it's not like he's come out of nowhere, but as an option, he's there. It's like, you know what, we'll use him. And you're using him to the maximum.
Jack's an extremely versatile player. He can be in the backfield and we can hand him the ball. He can run routes. He can run deep routes, and he also runs the bubble and things like that for us. So he's had a lot of touches the first couple of weeks, and he's proved to be the playmaker that he is.
Coach, when you go on the road, as you did last week, you're not sleeping in cars or anything like that. You're taking a bus down night before, getting up and going to the game, this and that. I know home games, you like them a bit earlier. Is that correct? We talked about that. But road games, would it be better if they were a little bit later to get the lights back on you, or does it really matter?
I don't think it matters, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I prefer the earlier games regardless, just because you have less of that waiting around time before the game. So it's nice that you just wake up, you eat breakfast, you get in your routine, and you go play the game.
Talking to Coach Adam Howard, of course, last week. Well, just last Saturday, Urbana 39, NDC 19. And, Coach, we talked about the turnovers, lack of a 4th and 1. And, again, things you're going to need to work on. Can't be missing extra points either, can you?
Absolutely. It's one of those things where every area, in a game like that, every area, we had some breakdowns. And, it's our focus. That's why we have jobs. We were very critical of ourselves first as a coaching staff. But then, I think our players have great character, and they handle criticism, and they're very coachable guys. So they've accepted the challenge. Our seniors have done a great job this week of, making sure that, it's a 1-week season. We make all those corrections. You don't take it personal, and then you go into the next week focused on whatever it's going to take to win that game. So you have to kind of compartmentalize things and put some of the emotions aside from a win or a loss, because you can also get very complacent, pat yourself on the back if you win big, and your approach has to remain the same. And I think our seniors have done a fantastic job in their preparation this week and their mental approach.
Just a reminder, 2 p.m. Saturday, kickoff. Muller Field on the Notre Dame College campus as West Virginia Wesleyan comes in. West Virginia Wesleyan Bobcats against the NDC Falcons. And I can tell you what, from what we've been looking at, and we're talking about our opponents next, nice matchup. We're going to see some offenses as we come down. And you're also going to have to tell Mr. Russ just to keep an eye on the football. But I know if anybody can squeeze it through a window, he can do it. It's the Notre Dame College Coaches Show. Mark Bishop, Adam Howard, Andy Bartz, the voice of the Falcons. He's in the house. E. Willie producing here on site. Chris the Zip back at the station. But most importantly, you, friend, on ESPN Cleveland.
Subway of South Euclid has Football Weekly, presented by Notre Dame College on ESPN Cleveland.
It is the Notre Dame College NDC Coaches Show. Mark Bishop, Andy Bartz, voice of the Falcons, and the star of the show, Coach Adam Howard. Coach, West Virginia Wesleyan coming off a 37-7 victory Virginia-wise, but Virginia-wise, talking to Andy before the game, school in transition, making some changes. So it probably was a score that should have been.
Sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I thought West Virginia Wesleyan did a great job last week of taking the ball away. UVA-wise had, I believe, 6 interceptions.
6 picks.
Yep. So they threw 6 interceptions. It's tough to win games, when you're doing that, turning the ball over. So, going into this game, West Virginia Wesleyan, they've got some skill. They're young, but they run to the football. They do some great things on defense, and they have a very solid offense. They've got some weapons.
Does it make it tougher to game plan for a team like that, knowing that it almost seems like we've seen 2 different teams the last 2 weeks? They played Elon the first week, an FCS school. Yet
they hammered, didn't they?
And then last week, they do the hammering last week. Does it make it tougher for you guys to game plan when you see a team like that, when you see almost 2 separate teams in 2 different weeks?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes, one of the things about football is that, it's hard to gauge how good teams are if they put the ball on the ground, or if there's a lot of turnovers, because that totally changes the scope of the game, as we witnessed last week. So, but at the same time, we're going to do what we do well. One of the things that I truly believe in is our most of our focus in our preparation is trying to, improve on what Notre Dame does well. So it doesn't make it too hard in that sense.
Coach, looking to, and by the way, that Elon score was 49-7. So resiliency, I don't care who you're playing, to bounce back. I won't make any Gordon Gee references as to the opponents, where Gordon's a dear friend. He's a dear friend, so that's just a little aside. But you talk about all facets of the game, how important they are. 6 picks, 1 return, the old pick 6. Boy, that'll put the fear of the maker in you. And West Virginia Wesleyan, they also had a punt return for a touchdown. So as you're going over film and as you're planning your practice, you're like, okay, guys, there's more to meets the eye here. I mean, we have to be sharp in every single facet of our game, which I know you plan, but then you got to actually put it into practice, because these guys can put. And how important is it too for a team that you put the ball in the end zone so many different ways?
Right, absolutely. It's one of those things we focused all week on, taking care of the football ourselves. And not all week, but it's been a focus since last spring. Is, we want to take the ball away on defense and take care of the ball on offense. And like I said, that's the one statistic that's the most important in football. And it's disappointing sometimes. You can go into a game and you can execute and play very well, but if you put the ball on the ground, it's tough to win.
Coach, looking at West Virginia Wesleyan, of course, the opponent, Saturday, 2 o'clock kickoff, Muller Field. They ran a lot of plays. Are they getting plays in from Chip Kelly and the Eagles or something? Or, they ran over 100 plays last week.
Right. Yep. It was one of those things where if you do turn the ball over, we were 2 fast-paced offenses going against one another. So, you can get a lot of plays. There were almost 180 plays total between both teams. So it's one of those things where if you turn the ball over and give them extra possessions, then, those plays are going to stack up.
Coach, 2.8 yards, a rushing attempt for West Virginia Wesleyan last week, 92 yards rushing. like I said, I'm a fairly simple man. But if you're scoring 37 points, I'm telling you, it's not via the rushing game, okay, with those numbers. Now, again, it's another facet of things that you have to stop. But are you going to be geared towards stopping the pass?
Well, it always starts up front, and you never want a team to get going on the ground. That's very important. Our rush defense is always going to stay number one, regardless of the team doesn't run the ball well or whatever. Now they do have a good freshman running back that's shown the ability to do some things, but they also have a lot of talent at receiver, so you don't neglect that part, obviously. So probably the biggest playmaking threats are at the receiver position. They have some really good receivers that can break some plays on you. So we've really focused on just every aspect of that. We want to be able to be strong versus the run and not give up big plays in the passing game.
Well, it is league play, and as Earl Bruce always used to tell me, you know what, they all count. But, he would call the non-Big Ten games his preseason exhibition games, even though they counted for the record. But now that you are, when you have league games, so much more important.
Well, it's a conference game, and it's at home.
Yeah.
We won our first game at home on Muller Field, and, having a new field, it's an opportunity to build some traditions. And, every good football program has a tradition of not losing games at home, but winning games at home. And I think it's extremely important to our guys that every time we walk out on our home field that we're going to represent Notre Dame well, and we're going to walk away with a win. So that's what we're excited to do on Saturday.
Andy?
Well, I'm taking a look at that defense last week, Coach. I think when you look at the overall numbers, you see, 102 plays, over 500 yards of offense. But to me, anyway, Coach, I thought the defense did a decent job. You look at that third down conversion percentage, especially towards the end of the game when you guys were giving up a lot of field position. I think the defense certainly did a decent job. And is that something you guys can build on moving forward?
Well, I think defense all year, Coach Padilla is stressed being mentally tough in some of those situations. And we certainly put them in some tough situations, with dropping a punt and turning the ball over and those sort of things, and going 3 and out on several occasions. So I think our defense, is getting to the point where they're really mentally tough, and I thought they responded really well in a lot of situations on Saturday. So I think it is something to build on.
And 6 points. That's it. Only 6 points right in the fourth quarter. I think that speaks volumes.
Right. Yeah. We weren't tired. We weren't physically tired. It was just one of those things. 102 plays, we're still fighting. Our guys are mentally tough, and they're physically tough too.
That holds over for the week before when we talk about, you see defenses start to wane, start to fade as the game goes on. The Falcons defense is totally opposite. Coach, we'll get our last break in, come back. I want to talk to you about weapons. I'm going to talk to you about difference makers, game makers, guys who make opposing coaches sit up in the middle of the night, especially defensive coordinators in a cold sweat because they go, oh my gosh, do we plan for him again? Because one thing I want you to think about as we go to break, seems like even just 2 games in, different names pop out every time, which is a thing of beauty because the other team has to plan for them. It is the Notre Dame College Coaches Show. Adam Howard, Andy Marks, voice of the Falcons, and you're truly Mark Bush-Bishop on ESPN Cleveland.
Hi, it's Nick from Notre Dame. Coming back.
This is Falcon Football Weekly, presented by Notre Dame College on ESPN Cleveland.
2 o'clock kickoff, West Virginia Wesleyan, Muller Field Saturday. Great place to be and get it done. Now, Coach, I talked about weapons, and I love it, and we all know about what Pete Rapal could do and what Ray Rush could do and what Jack Foy could do. But the bottom line is, I love seeing all of a sudden Morgan 5 passes, Ray Brown, the tight end, doing the dirty work in the trenches and sliding out and catching 4 passes. And that's what I talked to you about, is that so many options. But when there's that many options, more worries for the defense. Guys are going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think our offensively, I think we're pretty versatile. We have a lot of guys, I think, that can make plays, and not just with the guys that roll out there and start the game. It's I think we have some depth. We've had some injuries, at the receiver position. We've played a lot of guys at that position, so a lot of guys have contributed there. So it's nice that early on in the season we're able to get some of these guys experience and see what they can do. And so far, I've been really, really impressed with any of the guys that have stepped in, the Dejon Graham and Mitchell Shigos and some of these guys that are stepping in and playing, we're just adding depth and adding weapons to what we can do. So pretty pleased with our quarterbacks and being able to distribute the ball, Ray's distributed the ball pretty well to different people.
And, Coach, what else is nice, too, is that everyone works hard in practice. If not, they wouldn't be on the depth chart, let alone be in consideration. But I got to tell you, the goal is to get in the game and play.
Right.
And the goal is to make you have to take them out. And if they're doing what they could be doing, or even more so, you're going to be hesitant to do that. That's why I always told my son, it's on you, whether you stay in the game or not. It's not on the coach. Because once you get in there, unless there's, you're a messenger receiver or something like that, all of a sudden, wait a minute, he just decleated some guy. He just caught a ball he should have caught. He's staying in for a few more reps, so it is on the young men to stay in.
Absolutely. I always tell the guys, it's up to you whether you play or not. It's one of those things where if you perform in practice, you continue to impress, you do all the little things that lead to the big things. You're going to, like you said, force us to keep you in the game or to put you in the game.
Coach, what will the most important keys be to Saturday's game against the Bobcats? I know every game is take care of the football, win the time, but still, some teams have other things that you must exploit or you must protect. What are the keys for this game against West Virginia Wesleyan against the Bobcats?
Well, of course, I think the biggest thing is that we don't beat ourselves, like you just said. But beyond that, I think we have to, early on in the game, figure out where our matchups are, and I think we have a pretty good idea, going into the game where we have favorable matchups, and we have to be able to exploit those, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. I don't want to talk specifically about those now, but
or will I let you?
I think every team, as they watch the film, they get some confidence and they build a game plan around what they think they can execute well and where they have good matchups. And we feel like, going into the game, they have very good players at certain positions, and we feel like we do too. And if we win some of those matchups, I think that's going to be the key to the game. So it'll play out on Saturday. I'm pretty excited to see the guys execute our game plan.
Also, after 6 interceptions last week by the Bobcat defense, I know that Ray Russell's aware of that. I also know that you're aware of that. Take a few less chances, perhaps trying to force a ball in that he would against other teams?
Yeah, I mean, they have ball skills, obviously.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where, it's not, that is not going to take us away from what we do. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, you take certain things into consideration and what they do well, and not necessarily back us down. But we're excited to, like I said, let some of the matchups that we see in the game plan that we've developed play out on Saturday.
Coach, I want people to get here early enough for the Falcon Walk. What time will that take off, and where do you leave from? What do you think, Ant?
Usually the Falcon Walk takes place about, an hour and a half before the game begins? So about 12:30, 12:15? Yeah.
Well, get out, watch the Falcon Walk, cheer the young men on, and then go back and do a little tailgate, and then come back and enjoy the game. Coach, nothing but the best to you, my friend, and every Thursday I look forward to coming out here for the Notre Dame College Coaches Show with you.
Thanks so much, Mush.
Go get it, buddy. Okay, Andy Barsh, thank you so much. A. Willie on site, thank you for producing. Chris Kuhn back at the station. As always, friend, when you see a police officer, a firefighter, emergency services worker, someone in the military, put your hand out, shake theirs, or thank them for what they do, and life is precious. Enjoy every sandwich. We're talking to Coach Adam Howard. It is the NBC Coaches Show on ESPN Cleveland. Adios, amigo. Long may you run.